Have you ever felt like your mind is a battlefield where thoughts wage war against your peace? Like you're constantly drowning in mental noise while desperately searching for silence? What if I told you that the most profound transformation doesn't require shouting from rooftops, but happens in complete silence? The ancient Stoics discovered a revolutionary truth that modern neuroscience now confirms. You are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness observing them. This single realization has the power to completely reorganize your life from the inside out. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up determined to have a productive day, only to find yourself spiraling into anxiety about yesterday's embarrassment or tomorrow's challenges. Your mind becomes a runaway train, and before you know it, hours have passed while you've accomplished nothing but mental exhaustion. Socrates famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living, but here's what most people miss. Examination without action is merely mental entertainment. It's like reading a map without ever taking the journey. As Neville Goddard so brilliantly put it, imagination without action bears no fruit. Both philosophies recognize that awareness must be coupled with deliberate change. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The revolution of Stoicism isn't found in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments of choice. When you pause before reacting, when you separate yourself from harmful thoughts, when you focus on what you can control while releasing what you cannot. This internal reorganization creates external results that seem almost magical to those who don't understand the process. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you navigate life's challenges. The Stoics weren't just philosophers pontificating in ancient forums. They were emperors managing empires, slaves enduring unimaginable hardship, and everyday citizens facing the same human struggles we experience today. Neville Goddard echoed this ancient wisdom when he taught that you are all imagination and must separate yourself from your present circumstances to appropriate a new life. This separation isn't about escape, it's about gaining the perspective needed to transform your reality from within. Imagine having a mental framework that allows you to maintain inner peace regardless of external chaos. Imagine training your mind to automatically distinguish between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Imagine living with such clarity of purpose that petty distractions simply fall away. What separates those who merely survive life's challenges from those who thrive through them? The answer lies in organizing your inner world, a practice that happens in complete silence, one thought at a time, one decision at a time, one moment at a time. If these Stoic principles have resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community of inner architects. Each week, we explore timeless wisdom that helps you take control of your life from the inside out. In this journey toward inner transformation, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. Knowledge without application is nothing more than sophisticated procrastination. We collect inspirational quotes on social media, feel motivated for exactly 7 minutes, then slip back into the same old patterns that have kept us stuck. This cycle of temporary inspiration followed by inaction is perhaps the most common roadblock on the path to personal evolution. The hidden truth that few discover is that wisdom must be embodied, not merely understood intellectually. Neville Goddard captured this perfectly in his Law of Assumption. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Notice he didn't say understand the concept or think about the idea. He emphasized feeling, the full embodiment of the desired state. This profound insight reveals that transformation happens not through mental gymnastics, but through lived experience. The decisions you make in quiet moments shape your reality more powerfully than any external circumstance ever could. When you shift from merely understanding Stoic principles to actually living them, you experience a fundamental revelation. True power has nothing to do with controlling your environment and everything to do with mastering your responses. Consider the impact of this mindset shift. When someone criticizes you, instead of becoming defensive or seeking validation, you pause. In that moment of sacred pause lies your greatest strength, the ability to choose your response rather than react automatically. This internal discipline creates ripple effects through every relationship and situation in your life. Goddard expressed this same truth when he taught that your reactions, not the actions of others, determine your world. Both Stoicism and Goddard's teachings place the center of power within your internal states. This isn't positive thinking or wishful manifestation. It's practical psychology that has withstood the test of time. The most profound breakthroughs often happen behind the scenes, in moments no one witnesses but you. It's the quiet decision to respond with patience when provoked, to focus on what you can control when circumstances seem overwhelming, to embody your values when it would be easier to compromise. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how Stoicism works in silence, not through grand declarations or public commitments, but through the consistent private practice of aligning your inner world with your highest values. This is where true mastery begins. Drop in the comments, "I choose my response," if you've ever experienced that powerful moment of pause between stimulus and reaction. That moment is the birthplace of your freedom. What makes Stoicism uniquely powerful is that it doesn't require external validation or public declaration. Its transformation happens in silence, through the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. This invisible practice creates visible results that seem almost magical to those unaware of the inner work happening behind the scenes. Each moment presents an opportunity for this silent practice. When you choose patience over irritation, presence over distraction, or acceptance over resistance, you're applying Stoic principles without saying a word. The cumulative effect of these small, unseen choices creates a profound shift in your life experience. As Goddard beautifully expressed, the most creative power in the world belongs to the unseen and silent. The real work of transformation happens beneath the surface, in the quiet sanctuary of your consciousness. At the heart of this silent practice lies what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. This fundamental principle invites us to make a crucial distinction. Some things are within our control, while others are not. The revelation here is that we waste extraordinary amounts of mental energy fighting unwinnable battles, attempting to control other people's opinions, predict unpredictable outcomes, or change circumstances beyond our influence. Epictetus, who understood powerlessness intimately as a former slave, taught that true wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This insight liberates us from the endless pursuit of external validation and material acquisition. By redirecting our attention to what we genuinely control, our thoughts, our values, our responses, our efforts, we reclaim our power. Goddard expanded on this wisdom by teaching that while external reality may seem fixed, our consciousness can shift what manifests. Change your assumption and you change your world. Both philosophies place the catalyst for transformation within rather than without. The journey isn't about manipulating external circumstances, but about altering our relationship to them. Consider the revolutionary impact of this mindset shift. When you encounter obstacles, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you might ask, "What is this teaching me?" Or, "How can I use this situation to..." Embody my highest values. This subtle reframing transforms challenges from punishments into opportunities for growth. Let's explore how this dichotomy of control operates in everyday life, and how making this distinction can immediately reduce anxiety while increasing effectiveness. If you've ever felt the relief of letting go of something outside your control, type "freedom found" in the comments. To apply the dichotomy of control in your daily life, begin with a mental inventory of everything currently causing you stress. Take a moment right now to visualize these stressors. Perhaps it's your boss's unpredictable moods, financial uncertainty, your teenager's life choices, your family's opinions about your career, or how others perceive you. Now comes the breakthrough moment. Recognize how many of these stressors exist completely outside your sphere of influence. This revelation isn't meant to discourage you, but to liberate you. By identifying what you cannot control, you free up mental bandwidth to focus on what you can. Neville Goddard would take this insight a step further by suggesting we examine not just our external stresses, but our internal landscape. What are you imagining throughout the day? For your assumptions, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. The content of your mental cinema, what you repeatedly visualize and feel to be true, eventually materializes in your experience. This brings us to your true domain of sovereignty, the arena, where your power is absolute and undeniable. While external circumstances may seem chaotic, you maintain complete authority over your thoughts about these situations, your emotional responses, the decisions you make, the effort you invest, the values you embody, and perhaps most importantly, the meaning you assign to events. This internal territory is far more expansive than most people realize. Goddard recognized this as the primary creative center when he taught, "The world is yourself pushed out." Ask yourself what you are pushing out with your current state of consciousness. This perspective represents a fundamental shift in how we understand reality, not as something happening to us, but as something happening from us. Consider the transformative impact of this mindset. When you redirect the energy previously wasted on trying to control others' behavior or prevent every possible negative outcome, and instead invest it in your actual sphere of influence, the returns are exponential. Your relationships improve because you're no longer attempting to control others. Your effectiveness increases because your focus narrows to what actually creates change. Your anxiety decreases because you're no longer fighting impossible battles. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while maintaining inner peace, reminded himself daily to confine yourself to the present. The past is sealed. The future remains unwritten. But right now, in this moment, you have complete authority over your next thought, your next word, your next action. This is where your power lives. Let's explore how this clarity about what you control versus what you don't can transform how you navigate obstacles and challenges in your daily life. If this perspective on control has shifted something in your understanding, write "domain claimed" in the comments. The revelation of what you truly control leads to a powerful question. How much of your precious mental bandwidth have you wasted trying to control others? Opinions, manipulate someone's behavior, or prevent every possible negative outcome. This energy, your attention, focus, and emotional investment, is the most valuable currency you possess. Yet most of us squander it daily on unwinnable battles. Imagine redirecting all that energy toward what you can actually influence. The transformation would be remarkable. Goddard recognized this untapped potential when he taught, instead of fighting against what is, use that same energy to create what could be. This shift represents a profound awakening. Rather than exhausting yourself resisting reality, you can channel that same force toward imagining and embodying your desired state. This redirection of energy isn't passive resignation. but strategic focus. When you align your efforts with what you can actually influence, you become unstoppable in the areas that matter most. The hidden truth here is that influence expands naturally when you stop trying to control what you cannot. Marcus Aurelius, who faced plagues, wars, and betrayals while maintaining inner equilibrium, reminded himself daily to confine yourself to the present. The present moment is where your power lives in its purest form. The past is sealed by time, the future remains unwritten, but right now, in this breath, this thought, this decision, you exercise your full authority as the architect of your experience. Goddard taught a remarkably similar principle through his technique of living in the end, fully occupying the mental and emotional state of your wish, fulfilled now, rather than projecting it into an imaginary future. This practice isn't wishful thinking, but psychological architecture. By embodying the feeling of your desire already accomplished, you align your entire being with its manifestation. The journey of mastering this present moment awareness reveals something profound about human consciousness. We habitually escape the now, either ruminating on past mistakes or anxiously anticipating future and scenarios, yet our only point of genuine power exists in this moment. The revelation here isn't just philosophical, but practical. When you bring your full presence to what's directly in front of you, solutions emerge that were invisible when your attention was scattered. This present-focused awareness creates a foundation for responding rather than reacting. When you're fully here, you access intuitive wisdom that transcends the limitations of reactive thinking. Your decisions flow from a deeper source, aligned with your highest values rather than triggered by temporary emotions. Let's examine how this principle transforms our relationship with obstacles, revealing that what stands in our way often becomes the way forward. If you've experienced the power of fully inhabiting the present moment, type present power in the comments. Here's a practical approach to implement these principles in your daily life. Create 2 columns labeled My Control and Not My Control. For the next week, whenever you feel stressed or anxious, pause and categorize what's triggering that feeling. For anything in your control column, take 1 concrete action, even something small. For anything outside your control, practice the art of acceptance and letting it go. This simple practice creates a profound blueprint for mental clarity. You'll discover that anxiety decreases because you're no longer fighting impossible battles, while effectiveness increases because you're focusing energy where it actually creates change. Behind the scenes of this seemingly simple exercise, a fundamental rewiring of your relationship with reality takes place. Neville Goddard would add a fascinating dimension to this practice. He suggested that even not my control items can be influenced through consciousness. Assume the feeling that would be yours were you already the one you wish to be. This reveals a hidden pathway between acceptance and influence. By changing your state of being, you indirectly affect circumstances that seemed beyond your reach. Another transformative Stoic technique is what Marcus Aurelius called the view from above, a practice of gaining cosmic perspective by mentally zooming out to see challenges from a broader vantage point. Picture yourself in your current situation, then mentally zoom out to see yourself in your location, your neighborhood, your city, your country, your continent. Keep expanding until you see Earth floating in space, our solar system, our galaxy, among billions of others. From this cosmic perspective, how significant does your current worry actually appear? This isn't about minimizing legitimate problems, but about right-sizing them so you can respond with clarity instead of being overwhelmed by emotional intensity. When you're trapped inside a problem, it feels like the entire universe. When you step back, solutions often become visible that were completely hidden from ground level. Ready to continue this journey of inner mastery? Subscribe now and let's walk this path together. I'm committed to bringing you practical ancient wisdom that transforms your daily experience. This perspective shift parallels Goddard's teaching to rise in consciousness to the level of the thing desired, and to remain there until such level becomes your habitual state is the way of all seeming miracles. Both approaches involve transcending your immediate circumstances by shifting to a higher vantage point of awareness. What happens in this elevated state is remarkable. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, becomes more active, while your amygdala, the brain's fear center, calms down. This neurological shift literally alters how you process information. The journey toward mastery involves training yourself to access this perspective not just occasionally, but as your default response to challenges. Let's explore how this expanded perspective transforms our relationship with obstacles, revealing them not as problems to be avoided, but as the precise training we need for growth. If you've ever experienced that moment of clarity when zooming out from a problem, write "perspective shift" in the comments. The cosmic perspective gained through the view from above reveals a crucial insight. This practice isn't about dismissing or minimizing legitimate problems. It's about right-sizing them so you can respond with wisdom rather than being consumed by emotional intensity. When facing genuine challenges, whether financial strain, relationship difficulties, or health concerns, the goal isn't to pretend these issues don't matter, but to see them in proper proportion. Goddard articulated this wisdom when he taught, "If you judge after appearances, you will continue to be enslaved by the evidence of your senses." This revelation points to a hidden truth about human perception. What seems overwhelmingly important in the moment often appears different when viewed from a distance. This shift in perspective doesn't diminish the validity of your concerns. It enhances your capacity to address them effectively. Consider how differently you might approach a difficult conversation, a career setback, or a personal disappointment when seen through this expanded lens. The immediate emotional charge lessens, allowing your inherent wisdom to emerge. This isn't spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. It's psychological maturity that acknowledges challenges while refusing to be defined by them. What happens within your brain during this perspective shift is fascinating. When you mentally step outside your situation, viewing it as if advising a friend or watching it happen to someone else in a movie, your neurological state transforms. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking and creative problem-solving, becomes more active, while your amygdala, the brain's fear center, calms down. This physiological change literally alters how you process information. Goddard described this as going into your imagination, a deliberate shift in consciousness that allows you to see beyond current limitations. Both approaches involve temporarily stepping outside the confined perspective of the immediate self to access broader awareness. This practice creates a sacred space between you and your challenges, allowing for responses born of wisdom rather than reactivity. Seneca, who practiced this daily, understood that most suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from the stories we tell ourselves about what happens. The view from above reveals these stories as just one possible interpretation of events, not absolute truth. When you can witness your narrative about a situation rather than being completely identified with it, you gain the freedom to choose a more empowering perspective. The milestone in your journey of mastery comes when this expanded awareness becomes not just a technique you occasionally remember, but your default way of navigating challenges. Like any skill, it develops through consistent practice. Next time you're stuck in traffic, zoom out. When someone triggers you, zoom out. When worried about money or relationships, zoom out. Not to escape reality, but to see it more clearly. Let's explore how this perspective shift transforms our approach to obstacles, revealing them as not just challenges to overcome, but as the precise curriculum needed for our growth. If you've experienced how changing your perspective completely transformed a difficult situation, type "perspective is power" in the comments. One of the most liberating revelations on this journey comes from Seneca, who practiced daily awareness that most suffering arises not from events themselves, but from the stories we tell ourselves about these events. Think about it. The same exact situation can create entirely different emotional experiences depending on how we interpret it. A job loss becomes either a devastating blow or an opportunity for reinvention. A relationship ending becomes either proof of unworthiness or a necessary transition for growth. This insight reveals the hidden power you've possessed all along, the ability to rewrite the narrative. Goddard expanded on this wisdom when he taught that our entire reality is essentially a story we're telling. Man's faith in God is measured by his confidence in himself. The more faith he has in himself, the more faith he has in God. Both philosophies recognize that what we believe to be true becomes our lived experience, regardless of its objective reality. The breakthrough comes when you realize you're not just the main character in your life story, you're also the author. This doesn't mean denying difficulties or creating fantasy, but rather choosing which meaning to assign to events. The mindset shift happens when you move from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to "What might this be teaching me?" or "How might this be serving my highest good?" Perhaps the most transformative Stoic principle is captured in Marcus Aurelius's profound observation. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This revolutionary perspective completely reframes how we view obstacles. Every challenge isn't just something to overcome, it's actually the curriculum for becoming who you need to become. Consider how muscles develop. They only strengthen when facing resistance. Without challenge, they atrophy. Your character, skills, and resilience operate identically. The obstacles in your life aren't random punishments or evidence you're on the wrong path. They're precisely the resistance required to develop strength for your next level of growth. Goddard would view these same obstacles as invitations to demonstrate greater faith. The testing or trying of one's faith is done in the realm of the senses. Both philosophies recognize that what appears as a roadblock often contains within it the exact lesson or opportunity needed. For our evolution, the journey of mastery involves training yourself to see challenges not as punishment, but as the path itself. This perspective reveals the hidden opportunity within every setback. Financial strain becomes training in resourcefulness and clarity about true priorities. Difficult relationships become laboratories for developing boundaries and communication skills. Health challenges become invitations to deeper self-care and appreciation for the body's resilience. Let's explore how we can practically apply this philosophy to transform our relationship with challenges, revealing that the very things we resist often contain our greatest opportunities for growth. If you've ever discovered that what initially seemed like an obstacle actually became the catalyst for profound growth in your life, write "obstacle as path" in the comments. When we truly understand obstacles as the path, we begin to recognize a profound truth about personal development. Just as muscles only grow when facing resistance, your character, wisdom, and resilience strengthen exclusively through challenges. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without obstacles, there is no transformation. This revelation completely shifts how we approach difficulties in our lives. Think about someone you deeply admire for their strength, wisdom, or character. I can almost guarantee their admirable qualities weren't developed during comfortable, easy periods of their life. Those qualities were forged in the crucible of challenges. The very obstacles they faced became the catalyst for their evolution. Goddard emphasized this truth when he taught that what appears to be opposing your desire is actually the means to fulfill it. Out of every failure comes the seed of an equivalent success. This perspective unveils a hidden dimension to our challenges. They aren't random punishments or evidence we're on the wrong path. They're precisely the resistance required to develop strength for our next level of growth. Every difficulty contains within it the exact lesson or opportunity needed for our evolution. The breakthrough comes when we shift from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this here to teach me?" This simple reframing transforms our relationship with challenges. Rather than viewing obstacles as external enemies to be eliminated, we recognize them as internal teachers designed to elevate us. Goddard captured this wisdom perfectly. Whatever happens to you happens through you. Both philosophies see difficulties not as unfortunate events, but as opportunities for spiritual awakening and personal mastery. Consider this practical application. Identify your current biggest challenge. Maybe it's a difficult relationship, financial strain, career setback, or health issue. Now, instead of seeing it as something to merely overcome or endure, view it as a customized training program. If it involves a difficult person, they're training you in patience, boundary setting, or communication. Financial struggles train resourcefulness, prioritization, and discipline. Health challenges train self-care, resilience, and clarity about what truly matters. This isn't about pretending obstacles don't hurt or minimizing genuine difficulties. Some challenges are legitimately painful and hard, but even in legitimate hardship, you have a choice: be destroyed by the obstacle or be forged by it. The mindset shift involves recognizing that the very thing that seems to be blocking your path may actually be creating the path to a stronger, wiser version of yourself. Let's explore another powerful Stoic practice that complements this approach, one that seems counterintuitive at first, but builds unshakable gratitude and emotional resilience. If you've noticed that your greatest strengths were developed during your most challenging times, write "forged by fire" in the comments. Starting small with this approach can create profound results. When you hit traffic, use it as patience. Training. When technology malfunctions, practice problem-solving and adaptability. When someone criticizes you, train emotional regulation and self-reflection. Every small obstacle becomes a repetition in life's gymnasium, building the mental and emotional muscles needed for larger challenges. As you practice this mindset, you'll begin to notice something remarkable. Obstacles often redirect you toward outcomes better than originally planned. That rejection led to a superior opportunity. That failure taught something crucial. That difficult period strengthened relationships or clarified priorities. Goddard captured this transformative potential when he taught, "Nothing is impossible to the man who can believe it into existence." This revelation points to the hidden power within every challenge. The seed of its transformation already exists within it. Now, I want to explore one of Stoicism's most counterintuitive yet powerful practices: negative visualization. This technique, which Seneca practiced regularly, involves deliberately imagining the loss of valued things in your life. At first glance, this might sound pessimistic, but its purpose is precisely the opposite: to build unshakable gratitude and emotional resilience. Look around you right now. Notice the people in your life, your health, your home, your abilities, your opportunities. These feel permanent, don't they? They seem like they'll always exist. But Stoics understood a fundamental truth most people avoid. Everything you have is temporary, not to frighten you, but to awaken you to this moment's preciousness. Negative visualization isn't dwelling on worst-case scenarios or attracting misfortune through pessimistic thinking. It's periodically imagining the loss of valued things so you can appreciate them more fully while present. and be emotionally prepared if circumstances change. It's the difference between being blindsided by loss and meeting it with grace. Goddard approached this from a complementary angle. Be grateful for what you have now, while imagining having what you desire, for gratitude is the recognition that you already have what you seek. Both philosophies recognize gratitude as a transformative force. Stoics through contemplating loss, Goddard through acknowledging current blessings while imagining desired states. This practice generates a profound inner alchemy. When you regularly contemplate the temporary nature of everything you value, ordinary experiences transform into extraordinary gifts. Morning coffee tastes richer when you realize you might not always enjoy it. Your partner's laugh becomes more precious when you remember nothing lasts forever. Your health feels more valuable when you imagine losing it. The wisdom here isn't just philosophical, but intensely practical. By recognizing the impermanence of everything, you become more present to what exists now. Let's explore how to implement this practice in daily life to build both gratitude and emotional resilience. If you've ever experienced how contemplating the temporary nature of something made you appreciate it more deeply, write "Gratitude Awakened" in the comments. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while facing constant threats, would regularly remind himself, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." This profound understanding that everything we have is temporary wasn't meant to induce anxiety, but to awaken appreciation. When we truly internalize that everything, our health, relationships, possessions, even our very lives, is borrowed rather than owned, we develop a relationship with reality that's both more truthful and more meaningful. This temporary nature of physical experience might seem frightening at first, but Goddard offered a complementary insight that provides profound reassurance. The world of imagination is the world of eternity. It is the divine body of man. While our physical circumstances constantly change, our consciousness, our capacity to imagine, to choose our focus, to determine our inner state, remains eternal. This revelation shifts our identity from the temporary to the timeless, from the changing forms to the changeless awareness witnessing them. To implement this wisdom practically, try this transformative exercise. Once weekly, spend a few minutes imagining life without something you currently take for granted. What if you couldn't see this beautiful world? How much more vibrant would colors appear today? What if you couldn't walk? How much more would you appreciate each step? What if you lost your job tomorrow? What skills and relationships would you rely on? What if a loved one disappeared from your life? How much more present would you be in your next conversation with them? This isn't morbid thinking, it's realistic thinking. These changes will eventually happen to everyone in some form. The question is whether you'll be completely unprepared and devastated when they occur, or whether you'll have built emotional resilience to handle life's inevitable transitions with dignity and grace. The journey to inner mastery involves befriending impermanence rather than denying it. Goddard would add a fascinating dimension to this practice, suggesting it reveals the often hidden power of imagination. If you can feel that you would feel assuming you were what you want to be, you will take on that state here and now. This insight points to our capacity to transcend current circumstances through conscious imagination. By vividly experiencing both the absence and presence of what we value, we develop a deeper relationship with reality itself. Something profound happens when you practice negative visualization regularly. You start noticing ordinary miracles everywhere. The revelation isn't just that these things are temporary, but that they exist at all. The statistical impossibility of your existence, the miracle of consciousness, the gift of each breath. Epictetus, who experienced genuine loss as a disabled slave, taught he is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Negative visualization trains this wisdom in the laboratory of your daily life. This practice also serves another crucial purpose. It prepares you emotionally for actual loss. When you've mentally rehearsed different scenarios, you're not starting from zero if difficulties arise. You've already considered how you might respond, what resources you could access, what matters most. You become emotionally anti-fragile, not just able to handle challenges, but able to grow stronger through them. Let's explore how this awareness of impermanence connects with another powerful Stoic practice, the evening reflection, where you deliberately examine your day to extract wisdom and set intentions for tomorrow. If practicing gratitude for what you have while recognizing its temporary nature has shifted your perspective, type present treasures in the comments. As you practice negative visualization consistently, an unexpected transformation begins to occur. You start noticing ordinary miracles everywhere. The morning sunlight filtering through your window, a moment of genuine laughter with a friend, the functionality of your body that allows you to move through the world. These everyday experiences transform from background noise into foreground treasures. This heightened awareness isn't just philosophical, it creates a tangible shift in your lived experience. Goddard described this awakening as recognition of the reality of your assumptions, becoming conscious of how the states you've been occupying have created your current experience. When you regularly contemplate the absence of what you value, its presence becomes vivid in a way that casual appreciation never achieves. This practice reveals a hidden dimension of reality that was always present but obscured by familiarity. Think about something you once desperately wanted that you now have, perhaps a relationship, career opportunity, or material possession. Remember how magical it seemed before you attained it? How intensely you appreciated it when it first arrived? Negative visualization rekindles that initial wonder by temporarily removing the veil of familiarity. It's not about manufacturing gratitude, but awakening to what's genuinely valuable in your experience. Beyond cultivating appreciation, this practice serves another crucial purpose. It prepares you emotionally for actual loss. When you've mentally rehearsed different scenarios, you're not starting from zero if challenges arise. You've already considered how you might respond, what resources you could access, and what truly matters most to you. This preparation creates emotional resilience that serves as a foundation during difficult times. Goddard offered a fascinating perspective on this mental rehearsal, suggesting it goes beyond mere preparation. What you do in imagination is an actual creative act. It is not a rehearsal. For the moment you assume a feeling, you have actually created that reality in the fourth dimension. This revelation points to imagination as not just psychological preparation, but as genuine creation on a different level of reality. While Stoics emphasized mental rehearsal as preparation, Goddard saw it as the actual genesis of experience. Both approaches recognize the extraordinary power of conscious imagination. By deliberately directing your mental focus, whether toward appreciating what might be lost or toward embodying what you desire to create, you participate actively in shaping your experience rather than passively receiving whatever circumstances deliver. The journey toward mastery involves becoming increasingly conscious of this creative capacity rather than allowing it to operate on autopilot. This heightened awareness naturally connects to another powerful Stoic practice that accelerates personal growth more than almost any other, the evening reflection. Like a scientist examining experimental results, this practice involves deliberately reviewing your day to extract wisdom that might otherwise be lost. If you've noticed how contemplating potential loss has awakened you to ordinary miracles in your daily life, Write "awakened perception" in the comments. Every day offers a complete cycle of learning, growth, and renewal. Yet most people let valuable insights slip away without extraction. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is the evening reflection, where you deliberately examine your day to extract wisdom and set intentions for tomorrow. This single habit accelerates personal growth more than almost any other practice. Seneca ended every day conducting what he called a personal audit. When the lamp is taken away and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by. This wasn't self-torture or harsh judgment, but the practice of someone committed to continuous improvement. The revelation here is that without deliberate reflection, experiences pass by without transforming into wisdom. It's like having access to a gold mine, but never extracting the gold. Most people end their days collapsing into mindless entertainment or social media scrolling, missing the opportunity for deeper integration and learning. Behind the scenes of this seemingly simple practice lies the foundation for extraordinary growth. Goddard recognized this same principle but emphasized reviewing your imaginal activity. Review your day and see what you have been imagining, for this determines your tomorrow. Both approaches recognize that conscious examination of your day creates the foundation for meaningful change. To implement this practice, transform your evenings into powerful growth tools by spending just 10 minutes asking 4 questions. What did I do well today that I want to repeat? What did I do poorly that I want to improve tomorrow? What did I learn about myself, others, or life in general? What am I most grateful for from today? Goddard would add one more crucial dimension. What state of consciousness have I been dwelling in today? This additional inquiry reveals the inner landscape that's creating your outer experiences. This practice is powerful because you're not just reviewing, you're learning. When identifying what you did well, you reinforce positive patterns and build confidence. When identifying areas for improvement, you take ownership and set clear growth intentions. When extracting lessons, you transform experiences into wisdom. When identifying gratitude, you train your brain to notice the positive. When examining your states of consciousness, you become aware of the inner causes, generating external effects. Marcus Aurelius filled journals with these evening reflections, which became his famous meditations. He used this practice to remember his purpose and prepare mentally for the next day's challenges. The journey toward mastery involves making this reflection habitual, creating a sacred space each evening to process, integrate, and learn from your experiences. This practice also serves another crucial purpose. It helps you sleep better. When you process the day's events consciously, your subconscious doesn't need to keep churning through unresolved thoughts and emotions. You literally put the day to rest by examining it deliberately, creating space for renewal during sleep. If you've noticed how taking time to reflect on your day creates more clarity and intentionality for tomorrow, write conscious reflection in the comments. The power of evening reflection extends far beyond simple review. It's actually a form of active learning that shapes your future self. When you identify what you did well, you're not just patting yourself on the back, you're reinforcing neural pathways that make those positive patterns more likely to recur. When you identify areas for improvement, you're not just cataloging failures, you're taking ownership and setting clear intentions for growth. This deliberate practice of examination transforms random daily experiences into structured learning that compounds over time. Goddard recognized this same principle, but emphasized the creative dimension. The secret of creation is to be found in the state of consciousness itself. From his perspective, reviewing your day isn't just about learning from actions. but becoming aware of the states of consciousness that generated those actions. The revelation here is that your outer world reflects your inner state, not instantly, but eventually and inevitably. Consider how this practice might transform an ordinary experience like an argument. Instead of just feeling bad and moving on, use evening reflection to dig deeper. What triggered you? What could you have done differently? What did this reveal about your values or boundaries? How can you approach similar situations with more wisdom? Through this deliberate examination, a single argument becomes a masterclass in communication and emotional intelligence. Or perhaps you accomplished something you're proud of. Instead of just feeling good and forgetting, analyze what made it possible. What mindset did you bring? Which actions were most effective? How can you replicate this success? What strengths did you utilize? This success becomes a template for future achievements rather than a one-time event. The transformation happens when you process events consciously rather than letting them swirl unresolved in your subconscious. When you deliberately examine challenging interactions, unmet expectations, or surprising outcomes, you free your mind from the burden of unconscious processing. Goddard explained this as creating space for manifestation. The subconscious accepts as true that which you feel as true. By consciously processing the day's events, you not only resolve what has happened, but create clearer channels for what you desire to happen. This practice becomes increasingly valuable over time. After 1 week of evening reflections, you'll notice increased intentionality. After a month, you'll be amazed at your improved effectiveness. After a year, you'll have a complete record of growth that becomes increasingly precious as you recognize patterns, cycles, and transformations that would otherwise remain invisible. Most people live on autopilot, reacting without understanding their patterns. Evening reflection makes you the scientist of your own life, discovering what works and what doesn't, what aligns with your values and what takes you off track. This heightened self-awareness creates the foundation for another powerful Stoic practice that transforms how you respond to triggers and challenges. If you've discovered how deliberately processing your day creates more space for clarity and intention, write "conscious creator" in the comments. The heightened self-awareness developed through evening reflection creates the foundation for perhaps the most transformative Stoic practice of all, what we might call the sacred pause. Viktor Frankl, who discovered this principle in concentration camps, expressed it beautifully. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The Stoics taught this principle centuries earlier, recognizing that this infinitesimal gap between trigger and reaction contains our deepest human power. Goddard articulated a remarkably similar insight. There is always an interval of time between an impression and your reaction to that impression. Both philosophies recognize that what often feels automatic and inevitable, our reactions to triggering situations, actually contains a hidden dimension of choice. This revelation transforms our relationship with challenging circumstances by revealing our capacity for conscious response rather than conditioned reaction. Think about a recent moment when someone said something that triggered you. Perhaps it was criticism from a colleague, a dismissive comment from a family member, or a perceived slight from a friend. In that moment, your reaction likely felt automatic and inevitable, as if there was no other possible response. But the profound truth is that between the trigger and your response exists a space. It may be microseconds, but it's there. And that space contains the seed of your freedom. This space is where your deepest power resides. What feels automatic is actually chosen, though the choosing often happens below the threshold of conscious awareness. Goddard captured this insight perfectly. In that split moment when you react, you have the freedom to choose your state of consciousness. This choice determines your experience. The journey toward mastery involves expanding this space, making the gap between stimulus and response wide, enough for wisdom to enter. The revelation isn't just philosophical, but neurological. Between the moment your brain registers a stimulus and your response, multiple neural pathways fire. Most people let the fastest, most primitive pathway, the amygdala's fight-or-flight response, determine their reaction. But you can train yourself to engage your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational decision-making and aligned with your highest values. Consider the last time someone cut you off in traffic. The stimulus was clear, but your response was chosen, even if it didn't feel that way. You could have chosen anger and spent 10 minutes fuming. You could have chosen curiosity, wondering what emergency they might be rushing toward. You could have chosen compassion, sending good thoughts for their safety. Same stimulus, completely different responses, each creating different internal experiences and outcomes. This space between stimulus and response is where emotional freedom lives. When you react automatically, external circumstances control you. When you respond consciously, you exercise your deepest human capacity, choosing your attitude and actions regardless of surrounding conditions. If you've ever caught yourself in that precious moment between being triggered and choosing your response, write "freedom found" in the comments. Marcus Aurelius practiced this sacred pause daily, reminding himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He would often pause before responding to challenging situations, asking what response would be most virtuous, effective, and aligned with his values. This pause provided access to wisdom that knee-jerk reactions never could. What Goddard called awakening from the dream of life represents this profound shift in consciousness, recognizing your power to choose states of awareness rather than being driven by external events. This awakening doesn't happen once, but occurs in thousands of small moments when you catch yourself before reacting automatically. Each time you pause between stimulus and response, you're essentially declaring independence from conditioned patterns that have been running your life. The journey toward mastery begins with developing this response skill in low-stakes situations. When someone makes a comment that usually triggers you, instead of responding immediately, take one deep breath. In that breath, that sacred pause, ask yourself, what response would serve me best here? What response aligns with who I want to be? What response is most likely to create the outcome I actually want? Then choose your response from that centered place. Goddard would suggest using this pause to deliberately select a state of consciousness. Your reactions determine your world. Choose them wisely. This insight reveals the hidden architecture of experience. Your external world is shaped not primarily by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. The revelation isn't just philosophical, but practical. By changing your habitual responses, you literally change the trajectory of your life. This practice works everywhere. Your teenager rolls their eyes. Instead of snapping back, you pause and choose a response modeling emotional maturity. Your boss gives critical feedback. Instead of getting defensive, you pause and choose to listen for valuable information. Your partner brings up a sensitive topic. Instead of shutting down, you pause and choose to engage with curiosity and openness. Here's what most people miss. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel triggered. It's about feeling emotions fully while choosing responses consciously. You can feel angry and still choose to respond with dignity. You can feel hurt and still choose strength. You can feel frustrated and still choose patience. The Stoic philosopher Chrysippus used a perfect analogy. When a dog is tied to a cart, if it wants to, Follow, it is pulled and follows, making its spontaneous act coincide with necessity. But if the dog does not follow, it will be compelled in any case. The cart represents circumstances. They'll happen whether you like them or not. But you can choose to follow willingly with dignity or be dragged kicking and screaming. The mastery comes when this sacred pause becomes not a technique you occasionally remember, but your default way of navigating life's triggers. If you've experienced how pausing before reacting completely transformed the outcome of a difficult situation, write "response mastery" in the comments. Start practicing the sacred pause with micro moments in your daily life. When your phone buzzes, pause 1 second before looking. When someone asks a question, take a breath before answering. When you feel the urge to check social media, pause and ask if that's what you really want right now. These tiny practices build the muscle needed for bigger moments when strong emotions arise. A crucial revelation in this journey is that the sacred pause isn't about suppressing or denying emotions. Quite the opposite. It's about feeling emotions fully while choosing responses consciously. Many mistakenly believe that Stoicism advocates emotional suppression, but authentic practice involves acknowledging feelings completely while maintaining sovereignty over your responses. You can feel anger rising and still choose patience. You can experience fear and still act with courage. You can feel hurt and still respond with dignity. Goddard recognized emotions as powerful creative forces. Feeling is the secret of manifestation. Choose which feelings you will entertain. This insight reveals the transformative dimension of emotional awareness. Feelings aren't just reactions to be managed, but energies that shape your experience. The mastery comes not in avoiding emotions, but in choosing which ones to amplify and which to simply witness without acting upon. This emotional intelligence naturally connects to another powerful Stoic principle, focusing your circle of influence. Marcus Aurelius captured this wisdom perfectly. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. This profound insight reveals that the most powerful way to create change isn't fighting what you oppose, but focusing energy on what you can positively influence. Goddard expressed a similar principle. What you focus on expands. Focus on your desired state, not on what you wish to avoid. Both philosophies recognize that attention is creative. Whatever you consistently focus on tends to grow in your experience. The hidden revelation here is that fighting against what you don't want often strengthens it, while directing energy toward what you do want creates positive momentum. Consider how this applies to daily life. You can spend energy complaining about divisive politics or invest that same energy building community where you live. You can focus on criticizing unhealthy food systems or direct that attention toward creating nourishing meals for your family. You can dwell on a colleague's ineffective approach or channel that energy into exemplifying excellence in your own work. This isn't spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity, it's strategic focus. When you align your energy with what you can actually influence, you become unstoppable in the areas that matter most. The journey toward mastery involves becoming increasingly conscious about where you direct your precious attention. If you've noticed how focusing on what you can influence rather than what you can't has transformed your effectiveness, write strategic focus in the comments. To practically implement the principle of focusing your circle of influence, imagine 3 concentric circles. The innermost circle represents what you directly control: your thoughts, emotions, decisions, and actions. This is your sovereign territory where your authority is absolute. The middle circle represents your influence, relationships, work environment, community impact. Here, you have significant but not complete control. The outermost circle represents your concern: global politics, natural disasters, other people's choices, the past, the economy. Most people spend the majority of their mental and emotional energy in that outer circle, feeling constantly frustrated and powerless. They worry about political divisions, economic uncertainty, or others' opinions, things they cannot directly control. Stoics recognized the wisdom of inverting this pattern, focusing primarily on the inner circles where genuine change is possible. Goddard expressed this same principle through a slightly different lens. Your imagination creates the conditions in the outer world. He recognized that the inner circle, particularly your consciousness and imagination, is where all creation begins. The revelation here isn't just philosophical but practical. By focusing first on your inner state, you indirectly influence circumstances that seemed beyond your reach. Your circle of influence is larger than you think, but smaller than your circle of concern. You can't control company layoffs, but you can influence your organizational value by developing skills and building relationships. You can't control your teenagers' choices, but you can influence them through your example, availability, and the home environment you create. You can't control political outcomes, but you can influence your community through volunteering, voting, and modeling desired values. Stephen Covey, drawing from Stoic principles, observed, "As we focus on our circle of influence, it expands. As we focus on our circle of concern, our circle of influence shrinks." This counterintuitive truth reveals itself consistently in practice. When you spend energy complaining about uncontrollable things, you become less effective at influencing what you can control. When you focus on your areas of influence, that influence naturally grows. The hidden truth about expanding influence is that it happens not by seeking it directly, but by being worthy of it. Stoics called this living according to virtue, consistently acting with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline. When you embody these qualities, people naturally grant you greater influence without your needing to demand it. Goddard captured this same wisdom. You attract in others what you first establish in yourself. Change yourself, and you change how others respond to you. Both philosophies recognize that transformation begins within and ripples outward. The journey toward mastery involves becoming a living example of what you wish to see, not trying to manipulate others, but inspiring them through authentic embodiment. If you've noticed how changing yourself first has naturally shifted how others respond to you, write "inner transformation" in the comments. The practices we've explored culminate in what might be the most foundational Stoic principle: living according to your deepest values regardless of external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius captured this wisdom perfectly. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. This profound insight reveals that contentment doesn't come from acquiring external symbols of success, but from aligning your inner life with what truly matters to you. Goddard expressed a remarkably similar principle. Your assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. Both philosophies recognize that your inner orientation, your thoughts, beliefs, and values ultimately shapes your lived experience. The revelation isn't just philosophical but transformative. When you clarify what you truly stand for and align your choices with those principles, you experience a congruence that no external achievement can provide. The hidden truth is that most people live according to others' values without even realizing it. They chase success as society defines it, often pursuing careers, relationships, or possessions that bring little genuine fulfillment. They seek approval from people whose opinions don't actually matter to them. They make decisions based on external expectations rather than internal wisdom. The result is a life that might look successful on the outside but feels empty within. Stoics called this living according to opinion rather than according to nature. allowing social consensus to override your authentic self. Goddard addressed this same tendency with his characteristic directness. Do not bow before the dictates of facts and accept life on the basis of the world without. Assume your desire and feel its reality. Both approaches invite us to question whether our choices reflect genuine values or merely absorbed conditioning. The journey toward authentic living begins with powerful questions. What kind of person do you want to be, regardless of what you want to achieve? What principles would you want to be remembered for embodying? What values would you teach a child who looked up to you? What matters so deeply that you would sacrifice comfort, convenience, or popularity to honor it? These aren't easy questions, but they're the most important you'll ever answer. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues forming the foundation of a meaningful life: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. But your personal values might be expressed differently, perhaps as authenticity, compassion, growth, service, creativity, or connection. Specific words matter less than deep reflection and conscious choice. Viktor Frankl, drawing from concentration camp experience, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." This echoes the ultimate Stoic insight. Your values, character, and responses cannot be taken unless you give them away. If you've felt the difference between living according to external expectations versus following your authentic values, write "living authentically" in the comments. The clarity about your values transforms how you make decisions. When you know what truly matters to you, choices that once seemed difficult become straightforward. Should you take that higher-paying job that requires integrity compromises? Your values provide the answer. Should you remain in a comfortable but non-growing relationship? Your values guide you. Should you speak up about something important despite potential discomfort? Your values supply the courage. Value-based living isn't always easy. Sometimes it means disappointing people, turning down opportunities, or facing criticism. Sometimes it means admitting you were wrong, making difficult changes, or standing alone. Seneca understood this deeply. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Living authentically often requires letting go of who others expect you to be so you can become who you truly are. The journey toward authentic living involves continuously asking yourself powerful questions. What values would you teach a child who looked up to you? What matters so deeply that you would sacrifice comfort or convenience to honor it? Goddard approached this from a slightly different angle, focusing on desire rather than values. What do you truly want? Not what you think is possible, but what would you want if you knew you could not fail? Both approaches cut through social conditioning to reveal your authentic core, value-based. Living creates what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. You're no longer dependent on external rewards or approval for fulfillment. When you act in alignment with your deepest values, you experience a satisfaction that no external achievement can provide. You become what Stoics called self-sufficient, not because you don't need others, but because your sense of worth and direction comes from within. The wisdom we've explored isn't just theoretical philosophy, it's practical psychology that has helped people navigate challenges for over 2 millennia. These Stoic principles weren't developed in comfortable classrooms, but in life's arena by people facing genuine hardship. They work because they align with fundamental truths about human experience. The beautiful thing about these practices is that you can begin immediately. You don't need special equipment, ideal circumstances, or perfect understanding. You can start mastering the dichotomy of control with your very next thought. You can practice the view from above with your current challenge. You can transform today's obstacles into tomorrow's strength. Goddard captured this imperative for action with his fundamental principle: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Begin now to reconstruct your world by allowing your imagination to take you beyond the evidence of your senses. Both philosophies emphasize that transformation happens not through passive understanding, but through active implementation, moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day. The revolution happens in silence, not through grand declarations or public commitments, but through the consistent, private practice of aligning your inner world with your highest values. This invisible work creates visible results that seem almost magical to those unaware of the inner transformation happening behind the scenes. If you're ready to begin organizing your life from the inside out, one thought, one choice, one day at a time, write beginning today in the comments. As we come to the close of our journey together, I'm reminded of what Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals. Confine yourself to the present. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can close this video and return to old patterns, or you can take one small step toward organizing your life from within. The ancient Stoics organized their lives in silence, built their character in private, and changed the world through their example. Now, it's your turn. The practices we've explored aren't just ancient philosophy, they're timeless psychology that works regardless of your circumstances or beliefs. If this conversation has sparked something within you, a recognition, a remembrance of your own inner power, I'd love for you to join our community of inner architects. Subscribe to continue exploring these transformative principles with us. The journey toward mastery happens one insight at a time, and I'd be honored to walk alongside you. If you've made it to the end of this exploration and found value in these principles, leave a comment saying, "Architect of my life," so I know we're on this path together. And if these ideas have illuminated something valuable for you, that gentle tap on the like button helps others discover these timeless principles too. The beauty of this work is that it's continuous. Each principle builds upon the others, creating a foundation for extraordinary living. There's a video right here that explores how to apply these Stoic principles specifically to modern relationships. Click and continue with me there as we discover how these same timeless teachings can transform our connections with others just as powerfully as they transform our relationship with ourselves. Remember, as Neville Goddard taught, your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. Let's begin now.